Hello gays, this is your friend Saiyan Paradox Audio Fanfic and we are back in new fanfic. What if Dragon Ball Gohan was exposed as an alien, hunted by humanity, and forced to fight the entire world? Part 1. Today is a great day for the whole world. To explain why, we call Dr. Wiki. Cheers could be heard coming out of the TV sound, the audience going crazy all over the man. He walked into the stage with firm steps, showing that he was utterly confident about himself. His white and gray hair was tied in a low ponytail, his sunglasses covering his eyes, and a wide-open smile crossed his face as he stopped in front of the mic that was on the middle of the stage. As you can see, Kane, the world has been in danger since the arrival of aliens, the most recently being Cell. The world's greatest authorities had signed up the document that allowed us to initiate our project, and after a few years of research and a lot of time spent in getting samples of DNA, we bring to you guys the first generation of robots. The tall man gestured to a huge curtain behind him, and with a big grin on his face he pulled it open. There was 4 lines of robots, all of them in a silver human skeleton. Their eyes as red as blood, they all had a dangerous aura together with their huge height. I present you, the Keepers. As the crowd cheered up, Gohan frowned worried at the TV. Would his family and friends be fine? The DNA they collected had to be from them, their fights usually led a lot of blood, hair and stuff. He had to hope that they didn't have anything to link them to that. He knew Piccolo and Dend were going to be fine, for now at least, since no one knew about the temple, but Vegeta was a problem alone, the prince just couldn't hold his instincts back. His thoughts were turned off when he heard the man talk once again, after his public got quiet. You guys may be thinking, but he has proof that aliens are here. The crowd was still quiet, and the house he was too, at least until Arasa spoke. I hope they have it. Otherwise they spent our money for nothing. Gohan looked at her worried, he sure wanted that they didn't. But again, what they would possibly have. They have. Vital spoke and Gohan gulped in fear. As my father won against Cell, they did the test on us first. They suspected that we were aliens because of his strength, but he is just human. We asked for proofs of their doing and they showed us some pictures. Gohan frowned as his worries just grew. But he also knew that if it was something about him, he would have been already caught. Yes, we have. Please look at the screen over there. The white screen at the side of the stage made a bright light before an ancient spaceship was shown. From the deteriorate state in the form of it, Gohan was sure it was the preview's Kami ship. Worried, he bites his lips. This is the oldest ship we've found until now. Some pieces were already damaged beyond repair, but it helped us to get some DNA. We suspect it has over than 500 years. He then pressed a button and the slide changed. Now was a small ship, not known by the Half Saiyan. We suspect this is from 50 years ago. The time was nicer to it than the previous one and it had actually pieces of skin inside. Gohan frowned. So as he suspected, there were another aliens beside them. The new slide made him wide his eyes open as he recognized it. It was a sphere with a red glass in sphere format. It couldn't be from Raditz because it was destroyed, so it was his own father's. This one is more recent. As we managed to translate the language, we could find that it came to Earth 36 years ago. Everyone was in silence and the next slide was a video, what made Gohan immediately hold his breath. The video was about Raditz, his uncle, Piccolo and his father fighting to rescue him as a kid. As it was made by a satellite, the image wasn't very clean, but for Gohan, it was clear as a day. He just couldn't forget something like being kidnapped and watching his father die before his eyes. As you see, it seems that they were having personal problems, and it could be worse for us, humans. Gohan bit the interior of his mouth when he heard that. They don't know anything at all. Stupids. The next video was better, since it was made by a cell phone of a survivor of the disaster at Western Capital. The half-alien looked away from the TV with a frown as he saw 2 ships colliding with a city, Vegeta and Nappa well seen on the screen destroying the place. As you can see, they are dangerous, but for some reason they vanished. We couldn't find these two anywhere on the planet. Gohan could see Bulma hitting Vegeta now and a smile crossed his face. What are you grinning for, brains? Sharpener asked, raising an eyebrow. Nothing. Something came to my mind just now. The blonde boy raised one eyebrow, and would talk again if it wasn't for the female voice that came right after Gohan spoke. Be quiet. I wanna see it. Arasa made both look at the screen again. The images kept going and were getting better in terms of quality, and that worried the half-alien. They also had a pic of Frieza and the ruler's father, together with Mirai Trunks. As that time they were hid, the Z group didn't show up in the pics, and for a change he was happy that the future person wouldn't be living the hell he was sure they'd from now on. A few images of other supposed aliens were shown and Gohan had to be sorry for them. He felt guilty to be partly responsible of the humans' discovery. Before Cell they didn't really hid their power. The picture that troubled the teen more was some of the Cell's game. Again from a satellite, so it wasn't a clear image, and it helped to ease his heart a little, even with Wiki talking something about Vegeta. When the slides were over, it was time to turn on the keepers. He could feel, even at a distance, the ki of some people rise in fear. He could say that his was up too, but he managed to keep his cool face. Pressing the button to on, the robot's eyes shined in a red light, their skeletons shacked a bit for movement, and after a few minutes they started to scan everyone on the audience, and unfortunately there was an alien among the humans. Gohan had to hold his instincts to go and protect the poor man, which like him looked human, as he was grabbed by any possible ways by the robots, and once he wasn't able to move anymore, he got some kind of injection that made him fall asleep. OMG. There was one watching it. Arasa put her hand on her mouth. Vital was smiling and Sharpener kinda felt sorry for the man as he didn't had a chance against the giant robot. Now Gohan was sure. They were in big trouble. The next morning was like hell. Chi-Chi didn't want to let him go to school, but he knew that if he didn't, his friends would think he didn't come anymore right after the robots are on. He must be one of them. So in the end she let him go, but she was still unsure of it. Just take care, okay? We can't have you taken to who knows where. Quote. He understood his mother's concern, and he would be lying if he said he wasn't worried too, but it wasn't like he had a choice. Gohan usually went flying until he was near the city, and once there he'd use his jet, that Bulma gave as a birthday present, to get to school. This time, to be cautious, he used the yellow cloud, Nimbus, to get to the city. He immediately saw a lot of robots on the streets as he flew with his jet through the city, scanning people and even getting some aliens. Once near the school, he landed in a space reserved for students' jets. Right after he put it back into a capsule, and into his bag, he saw his friends and after a deep breath he walked to them. Hey guys, he said, smiling, making them smile too. It'd be a good morning if it wasn't for these robots waking up everyone to do their scan. Vital said, a little upset, but the smile was still on her face. Come on, it's for our safety. Arasa said, putting her hands on her friend's shoulder, making Vital giggle a bit. Sharpener on the other side sighed. He wasn't all happy with the robots. Yeah, but they still could be nicer to the aliens. I mean, what is the need to get them by brutal force? Gohan raised an eyebrow in surprise. He wasn't expecting that his male friend had this side. He always saw Sharpener as a bully and lover for martial arts. You'll need to be scanned before getting into the gates, Gohan. That made his attention goes to Vital, away from his own thoughts. Huh, why? He scratched the back of his head in innocence and his friend's sweat dropped. He could be really dense sometimes. Really. The outsiders, students have to be scanned because they don't live in the cities. They don't have enough robots to scan the whole planet at once. Yet, He blinked and smiled, knowing that for now his family was safe, at least until they found his house. Sorry, I kinda forgot that. As they walked near the gates, he could feel his heart racing. He needed to calm down. He was only half alien, so no big deal, right? He wouldn't get caught, right? He took a deep breath before walking near the tall metal skeleton, attracting Vital's attention. The girl frowned a bit as she glared at her friend. Is he nervous? Scanning. Beep. The red eyes shined. A wide laser could be seen. The scan started. The red light went first on his head, passing by his whole body, and once on his foot it turned off. Gohan was trying his best to not yell and ran away from there. The waiting was killing him, even though it was only a few seconds. For him it was an eternity. Beep. Human. His shoulders fell off, a sigh of relief come to his lips. It was as if a huge stone was lifted from his back, and a genuine smile crossed his features. Seems like I'm human after all, guys. He said playfully, and Arasa giggled. That's good to hear, cutie. Gohan scratched his head. He really liked Arasa, but she already made it clear that she feel disgust for aliens. That just made him think how she'd react if she found out about him. Okay, let's go or we'll be late. Sharpener said, getting closer to his male friend, while putting his arms around Gohan's shoulders with a smile. The half-breed giggled. They had their differences, but it was good to have friends the same age as him. Gohan, were you worried? Vital asked, walking by their side with raised eyebrows showing concern. It made the boy flinch. He wasn't hiding his feelings properly then. No, why? He looked at her with the best poker face he could do, and it seemed to work out fine, as Vital shrugged. In fact, she didn't really believed in him, but she trusted enough on him to feel that he'd say if it was something important. She decided to play instead. Huh, I thought you were afraid of robots. At that, the group of friends smirked. Gohan blinked, remembering 7 years ago when he fought the androids. He sure had a bad story with robots. If only you knew. Yeah, they are all evil robots that came to conquer Earth and are slowly getting over the planet. He said playfully with his own memories, and while walking away no one really saw the keeper that scanned him paralyzed. It was like the robot was still analyzing his data. Gohan was sitting on top of a building, thinking if he should help people or not. Not that he doesn't want to, but part of his disguise was turning into Super Saiyan, and with that, he doesn't know if it would get the keeper's attention, or not. He sighed with his black visor on his hands. He was holding it while thinking, since he didn't had a need to use it while waiting for a crime, but his white suit was already on his body since he used the device Bulma helped him to do. His disguise was pretty simple. Black spandex suit and a white overcoat that went to his knees covered the black parts. A golden dragon could be seen on his back. On top of his head, a black visor that hid his face, letting his golden hair out, and to finish it up he had white boots also with little details that resembled golden dragons. The teen dropped his head backwards in annoyance and tiredness. These stupid robots, was all he could think until he heard police sirens. That was his clue. Okay, I guess I'll have to find out if they will notice me. While putting his visor, he let his body fall from the tall building, turning Super Saiyan on the process, flying after the police. It wasn't hard to find the crime. The police cars stopped in front of the central bank, doing a barricade. By the corner of his eye, Gohan noticed that a few keepers were gathering around. They were flying and their eyes shining a bright red as they looked at him. With a bad feeling on his stomach, he landed near the barricade, his glare leaving the robots as he spoke to an officer. What's wrong? He asked at a police officer, who too was looking at the keepers, but turned to the teen to answer. A robbery. He stopped as he heard a loud sound and noticed that more robots joined the crew. This is giving me chills. The policeman was shivering and Gohan frowned looking at them. That couldn't be good. Yeah, same here. I'll take care of it fast. The man nodded at him. The golden fighter started to walk fast, almost running, to the bank. He wanted to finish this off as fast as possible since he was sure they were gathering to capture him, even without a scan. The teen hero stopped his walk once he heard a motor coming down the sky. Noticing it was Vital, he smiled under his visor. After the yellow jet landed, he giggled. The girl was sure upset. Her face was all red and her key was getting up really fast. Damn keepers. They even scanned me again. Stupid pieces of metal. She yelled at the robots that didn't look at her, but now the golden fighter laughed. Such a high temper, as always. She looked mad at him, her eyebrows together in a really angry frown. Shut up, golden fighter. What's the situation here? She said, looking at the bank and then at the police barricade. Robbery. With her comrade in crime nod, she smiled. It was going to be a good fight. Looking back at the bank and then to the golden fighter, she frowned. He was looking at the keepers and not really paying attention to the crime. Looking at them, she frowned. Is it me or they are the double in number now? A minute of silence came, and the girl looked at him with a confused face. Yeah. He lowered his head, as if he were thinking, and it made Vital frown. What's wrong? Hearing her voice, he let out a huge sigh. It was better if he get away from there. It seems it's better if I go. They are gathering faster than I expected them to. At that, the girl's eyes widened. He giggled at her reaction. At least she didn't scream out loud that he was an alien. You're. As she talked, her voice started to rise, making Gohan's sweat drop. Seems like I was too early in that assumption. Acting fast, he got closer to her, putting a hand on her mouth to stop her yell. Please, don't yell. I'm already full of problems as the way things are right now. His voice was like a murmur and it was full of appeal on it. Vital got troubled. Should she trust him? Or he was just trying to get their faith in him to betray them later. Scanning. Beep. All the keepers' voices said in unison as the red lasers made a huge scan on the entire place. Vital felt the golden fighter's hands shake through the one he still kept on her mouth, and put her glare on his face, in this case visor. The girl could see him gulping. She somewhat had the feeling of déjà vu. Beep. Alien. So they can sense me in this form. Was all he said while getting away from Vital. That made she think, this form. As he powered up, a golden aura formed around his body, making the girl take a few steps back with the power wave. Getting in the air, he saw the robots flying to him. Tickling his tongue, he shoot a weak key blast at one of them. He wanted to see their resistance. For his surprise, the robot exploded, making the people on the streets yell in fright. Scratching the back of his head, what Vital got is what a weak thing, he shrugged. Time to go, he yelled while powering up, letting the city behind, and once he was far enough, he turned back to normal state. Well, at least I know that we shouldn't turn into Super Saiyan now. Vital, on the other hand, was speechless, as everyone back at the city. The girl looked around and saw that the remained keepers were confused. It was like they had lost the track of the boy. She tried to focus on the robbery again, but it seemed that she couldn't. In fact, even the thieves went out to see what was happening, making her job a lot easier. But even after heading home, and answering a lot of questions from the reporters, she couldn't forget the plead his voice had. His voice, it was so afraid and in pain. He's good, right? He helps me to fight crime. He can't be a bad alien. The girl was confused. Weren't all aliens bad, as Wiki said? I said to you to take care and you almost get caught. What were you thinking? Chi-Chi said while hitting her son on the head with the fridge pan. He now had lose count of how many times she had hit him this time. You're all over the news. They say you are a dangerous one because you destroyed one of those pieces of metal. She didn't stop her attacks and he was starting to have a headache. Sighing, he looked up with puppy eyes. What made she stop her attacks for a brief moment? I'm sorry, okay. I had to see if they could find us while in Super Saiyan mode. He wasn't lying. Since he had to make sure that at least Goten and Trunks were going to be fine, even being half aliens like him. He grunted as the fridge pan connected with his head once more. No excuses. Stop fighting crime for now. He sighed in defeat. Gohan knew that his mother was right, she didn't have the need to ask that. I know that. She sighed and he looked sad at his mother. I know, at least I can still go to school as they can't find me in normal state. That was the point in helping people today, and for the destroying part, I had to see how resistant they are. Chi-Chi sighed and put a hand on his face, concern all over her features. I know it upsets you, but we have to think about our family here, okay? If they caught you, they'll come after Goten too. He nodded with a sad smile. Come, go play with your brother for a little bit, okay? The sad smile turned a bit better as he got up. Besides, at least you can go out of the house. Bulma told me she's keeping Vegeta inside and made him train without turning into Super Saiyan and ki blasts. That made a smirk comes to her son's face. He knew the prince was going to get pissed off really fast that way, but he also had the hope that he wouldn't disobey his wife's request. Yeah, looks like I'm in a better spot here. While the teen walked outside to call Goten to play, Chi-Chi smiled weakly. Looking at his back, she noticed how much he had grown and how like Goku he was now. That's right. Enjoy when we still know that you two are safe. She murmured to herself before turning to the stove. She had to start dinner after all. Did you see the news yesterday? That was the fifth person that was talking about his alter ego this morning, and it was making Gohan annoyed. Although he just got to school, he seemed to be the main topic of all students. Yeah, the Golden Fighter is an alien. And here we were, thinking he was a good guy. A vein could be seen on the half-alien's forehead. I am a good person. And I'm just half-alien. As he got into his class, he sat down with a bad humor, putting his head heavily against the table. Arasa and Sharpener were already there that day, so they just looked shocked at their friend. Whoa, what happened, cutie? Arasa said concerned, but just got a hand wave as answer. Sharpener then put his head on top of his crossed arms on the table, just to be able to see Gohan better. Bad morning, the blonde male asked, and Gohan put his thumb up. It was indeed a bad morning, to start with the fact that he had let his watch home so he didn't had the chance to transform, and ending with his alter ego being on the top news, again. A few minutes after, the class door opened and a Mad Vital walked to her seat. After sitting down with a loud noise and hearing the last of the talk, just Sharpener question and the mute answer from Gohan, she sighed. In my case, she made a pause. It was a bad night and morning. Then she did the same as Gohan, put her head on the table. Their blonde friends exchanged a concerned look. The reporters filled you up with questions, right? I saw it on TV yesterday. At that, Gohan turned his head to his friends, not letting it go of the table, but Vital raised her head again with a sigh. Because of the Golden Fighter. The three looked at Gohan and nodded. Yeah, they kept asking if I knew he was an alien. Of course I didn't. The whole class looked at her now. That subject was the top hot now. So, why he put his hand in your mouth? We saw that on the TV. Gohan frowned. He just did that to prevent her of talking. He never thought it'd turn out like this. If he knew, of course he'd not do it. He did that while asking me to not yell. He had just confessed he was one because of the keepers that were gathering. Also, he said his life was already difficult. She put a hand on her face, annoyed. What he said still bothered her, the thing about this form. So he had another form that the keepers didn't recognize as alien. She was starting to have a headache. So in the end, he was just trying to get our trust to kill us all in the end. Gohan rolled his eyes and turned his head to fit the table once more. This subject was annoying him. I don't think so. He was kinda sad. The brunette said without taking her hand out of her face, and that speech made Gohan smile. Maybe we are wrong. Not all of them can be bad. Vital looked around now and noticed that everyone was looking at her as if she went insane. The girl narrowed her eyes. She wasn't insane. We have proof that they are bad v. Arasa said, putting a hand on her shoulder, and Vital sighed in defeat. At least she'd pretend to be as blind as everyone else, because her instincts were saying the contrary. Yeah, I know. Still, she had a feeling that they just saw what the world wanted them to. The class started a few moments later, even with Gohan not paying any attention at it. At some point he felt the need of some fresh air and asked to go to the bathroom, which he never went as he crossed all the hallways, ending up at the roof. Before he noticed, it was almost end of the day and the boy had spent all of it alone on the same place, looking at the city and the remaining keepers that were patrolling from the skies. Hungry? No. Fear of his mother knowing that he skipped class? No. He was just sad that at some point the world he saved turned afraid of him, even without the people realizing it. They thanked Satan for his victory after all, and on top of all it, the fake hero was human, not alien or half alien. What got brains today? He never skips class, Sharpener said while getting his stuff in Gohan's. Once they noticed that their friend wasn't going to come back, they just grabbed his bag, that wasn't even open to begin with, to not forget it. Arasa pouted sad while looking at their friend's seat. He was so down today, maybe we should cheer him up. Vital smiled at that. The girl was used to being bothered by the media and stuff, so she was already better. That sounds good. Let's find him. They didn't have to do a lot of search as they knew he liked the roof. Something about the wind makes me happy, was what he told them last month. They knew the boy for half a year now, and once a month they went to his house to clean their minds of the city's problems. They got used to his odd way of acting and Gohan got used to their. It was a good and real friendship, even with him hiding a few things from them. The boy at the roof looked at his friends when they stepped out of the door and smiled. Hey. They sat down right beside him, looking right into his eyes with concern. What's the problem with you today? Vital asked while putting a hand on his right arm. It made he blush a little. With luck you guys will never know. Especially now. Some problems that I wasn't really expecting to happen. He decided to say the truth. Well, at least half of it. You can tell us anything, cutie. Arasa said, giving him a huge hug, and he giggled. Maybe not anything. The thinking came to his mind as he returned her kind hug. Yeah, brains, we can help ya. Sharpener gave him a friendly slap on his back, but regretted it instantly. Ouch. The blonde murmured and Gohan's sweat dropped, smiling right after. It's okay guys. I'm better already. And today you guys are coming over, right? A smirk came to their faces. Giggling, he got happier than before. Gohan was sure that he did the right choice when he decided to be friends with these three. Yeah, let's go already. I miss your mom's cook. Vital yelled with her arms up, and the half-alien laughed together with the two blondes. Yeah, indeed a good choice. Was all he could think. Okay, let's go. He said, getting up, all cheered up. He really was better now. When they stepped out of Gohan's jet, the four of them flinched at the sight of Chi-Chi, whom was outside the house, holding her frying pan with a huge frown on her face. Her older son tried to avoid the beating but failed miserably. He was being hit really hard and, even he knowing why he was suffering such a pain, he dared to ask. Why are you hitting me, Mom? That made the hit gets harder. She only stopped to talk, and her voice was really mad. The school called me. Who said you could skip class? Chi-Chi was furious, and even with her son's friend's presence she kept hitting him. He sweat dropped. The school was such a pain to call her whenever he did, or in this case didn't, something. Mom. He avoided one hit and grabbed her arms, taking care to not hurt her. He did his puppy eyes once more, trying to appeal to her good side. Please, we have visitors. The woman looked madly at him and sighed deeply. I know. They are practically our family, so I can punish you in front of them. With that she gave a final hit and Gohan yelled in pain, sitting down on the grass while rubbing his head to less the pain. She then turned to the other teens. Why you guys let him skip class? They felt a chill go down on their spine. Clenching their teeth in fright, they exchanged a worried look. Huh, he was kinda. Vital started but didn't have strength to finish. With her elbow she nudged Arasa's waist, who yelped before getting the hint. Kinda. Arasa tried too but looked at Sharpener for help and he sighed in defeat. He was going to finish it. Depressed. The trio looked at the woman. She widened her eyes in a bit of shock, but soon enough she made a sad face. Her glare went to her older son on the grass, who was pouting at her now. Don't be depressed. I told you that it is for the best, you have to stop to do that thing. The trio exchanged a weird look, noticing that they were keeping a secret from them, but it wasn't unusual for the Sun family to say things in code so the trio couldn't understand. At first they thought it was because they didn't trusted them, but soon enough they noticed that every family has its own secrets that they want to be hid. I know that. I'm okay now, he said while getting up and walking to the door. Where's Gohan? That didn't have the need for an answer, since the kid came running from the forest with a big fish on his back. Mom, I got dinner. The kid stopped his walk when he saw Arasa and a big smile came to his face. Dropping the fish on the ground, he ran happily to her, almost making her fall with the impact. Arasa, let's play. The blonde got the kid into her arms after getting her balance back and laughed. Maybe tomorrow, okay? I'm tired today. Gohan pouted, but looked at his brother instead. He mimicked Gohan's puppy eyes, making his older brother smirk. You can play a little, right? He knew what the little boy wanted, a spar. They always trained late at night and in the deeps of the forest. He had to find a way to finish the little one's energy after all. Sure, Squirt. Later on we can go play. Gohan yelled happily, hugged Arasa one more time and dashed to the fish. I'll go get another fish, Mom. I don't think that one will be enough. Chi-Chi shrugged, if he said that he was starving. For her surprise, the three remained teenagers went running after Gohan, saying something about swimming. Gohan laughed while pushing Sharpener into the lake. The blonde boy was staring at the water for too long for the half Saiyan's taste, so he, accidentally, tripped and stumbled on his friend's back, making him fall into the water with a loud sound. Vital and Arasa couldn't hold their laugh any longer as Sharpener put his head out of the lake with a mad stare at his male friend. As Gohan was laughing, he didn't saw the two females grinning at him, and as what happened to Sharpener, he was tossed into the lake. With widened eyes he saw the water coming closer, and smiled, closing his eyes to protect from the impact. Now deep in the water he looked up, seeing Sharpener's legs and two blur figures at the river bank. The smile on his face grew, but suddenly a sad shadow could be seen on his eyes. Maybe it was better to tell them about his father being an alien. He didn't know how the trio would react, but he bet it wasn't going to be good either way they found out. Gohan? Vital asked after a few minutes her friend was underwater. She looked over to Arasa, who also had preoccupied eyes. Sharpener, who was now closer to them but still on water, he went there to swim after all, was with his face underwater in search of their friend, but got it out as soon as he heard a loud sound of something hitting the water. For his surprise, he saw the two girls put out their heads of it and looking at the river bank. The blonde male followed their gaze and was surprised to see Gohan standing there and laughing. How the hell you got out of the water without we being able to see you? Vital splashed some water with her hands on his way, his laugh just getting louder. Well, that's a secret, he said while grinning evilly at them. Once his dark thoughts on the deeps of the lake went away, he smiled. Using his fast movements he went far away from them, getting out at a few meters forward, rushing into the woods and waited for the perfect time to push his friends. Now, should we start fishing? He said right before his stomach growled. He was starting to get hungry. Sure thing. Sharpener smiled and started to swim to the center of the lake. They were used to helping Gohan and his brother to get fishes. It somehow helped him and Vital to get better at martial arts. As for Arasa, she was good to cheer them up. Gohan then jumped into the water, in a cannonball form, splashing it to everywhere. The group didn't notice how longer they stood there fishing, but when the half-breed felt the need to eat they started to head home. He got a bigger fish than Gohan and was carrying it easily, while Sharpener and Vital were having trouble with their small ones. Arasa was helping out her brunette friend, if holding the tail of the fish could be considered as help. The half-alien's nose got the scent of his mother's cooking as they approached the house, saliva dripping from his mouth. That said, he couldn't help himself anymore and started to run to his house, almost leaving his friends behind. For his sadness, the moment he stepped inside the building, his mother scolded him. "What the? Don't get inside while you're all wet." He blinked. He had forgotten he was just swimming. "Go back doors. Gohan will get a towel for you guys. Why you all didn't have your clothes off before entering the water? It's always the same thing." At the sight of the frying pan of horror, Gohan shivered. For his surprise, his friends too, it seemed they wouldn't be left of the beating this time. Letting his fish on the ground, what Vital and Sharpener also did, the quartet went back doors, meeting Gohan that was already there. "I also wanted to swim. Why you didn't ask me to go too?" he said to his brother while pouting. Gohan smirked. "Oh Squirt, Mom need help to cook, right? I'm sure you did a great job. Also, I'll play with you later." So, he put one of his hands on the top head of the kid, caressing it. "Be patient." Gohan shrugged. The kid wanted to spar as much as he wanted to play. After dinner, the family and the guests watched TV, the air getting heavier at the sight of the keepers. The news were all about how many aliens the robots got in only a day, and they wondered how many were out there outside the cities. Vital could see that the Sun family was a bit concerned at the videos, made or by reporters or citizens' phones, that showed the non-human getting arrested. The girl was surprised when she noticed Goten's hand grab his older brother's sleeve, and soon enough they left the room. Chi-Chi looked at them before they got out, turning to the TV right after. Goten walked side to side to his brother into the woods. Gohan knew something was off when his little brother looked at him with sad eyes. It was as if he was about to cry, so he decided to take him for a walk, or even spar a bit. For his surprise, the kid stopped his walk, what made Gohan look at him with curiosity. His tiny fists were clenched by the side of his body, his eyes covered by the shadows of his own hair. The oldest son sat down on the ground, waiting his brother outburst. For his surprise, tears came out instead of a yell or something. He sighed. "Goten, why are you crying?" Although he knew the answer, he asked anyway. The kid looked up, eyes filled with tears but also a mix of angry on them. He looked down again, not sure how to say what he wanted. "I want to help them. They can't even protect themselves like we do, and the ones who are a bit stronger also don't have a chance." The kid now put his hands on his face, the sobbing getting louder. Gohan looked away, as if in deep thought, but his brother wasn't finished. "And you can't even help anyone anymore." He fell on his knees, the speed of the crying slowing down. It took a few minutes before Gohan talked. "Goten." His brother looked up at him, his eyes red because of the cry. "Don't worry about it. Although I too am worried and want to help the others, I can't risk to be found out." Goten stared the ground in front of him. "All I want to do now is protect our family. That's all that matters to me." He gestured to his brother to go to him, what he did fast, both hugging each other. "Are you sure we'll be okay?" Gohan sighed at the question, how he should be sure of that. "For now at least I can say yes. If something comes up, I'll protect you, okay?" He patted his little brother's back, who nodded in silence into his chest. The hours went by, the sob finally getting smaller until he could just hear the snores of a sleeping kid on his arms. He looked up at the skies. He sure was going to live a hell from now on. It was already late at night when Vital woke up, hearing Gohan and Chi-Chi talking downstairs. She didn't want to overhear their talk, but as she was awake now, it was kind of inevitable not to mention how small the house was. As she woke up with the boy's voice, she didn't really understand the subject entirely even when Chi-Chi spoke. So he was that worried. She was fully awake now. I calmed him down, but I'm not sure for how long he'll hold back. He did a pause. He's too alike father in that matter after all. The silence that came after was longer than Vital anticipated. If something happened to you at school, I don't know how I'll hold him back. Whatever Chi-Chi was trying to say, her son cut off. Nothing will happen, Mom. And I say if, we eventually get to that extent, go to Grandpa. She could hear Chi-Chi gasping. Why shouldn't I go to Kuririn and the others? Vital frowned. She had heard this name somewhere before, but couldn't remember where. But again, she knew that here their talk wasn't a good thing to do, but she just heard a few things that caught her attention. What could happen to him at school? No one would even dare to do anything to him because of me. Something was really off. Mom, did you thought about what will happen if they find 18 and especially Vegeta? That got more of Vital's attention. What could possibly be wrong with these two? Was 18 even a name? Persons. We can't risk anything here. Grandpa has many ways of protecting you two and holding back Goten. Promise me that you'll go to him. As Vital didn't hear anything back from Chi-Chi, she got that the woman had promised him in a quiet nod. The girl was starting to get thirst, but she wasn't sure if it was safe to go out of her bedroom now. She heard footsteps outside not long after, letting the silence fulfill the place. It was when she decided to go get her water. Vital opened the door slowly, as not to attract attention, and headed downstairs as quiet as she could. She almost yelled seeing the shadows move into the kitchen, her heart at her throat, and she sensed her blood starting to freeze inside her, only to realize it was Gohan. Why the hell were you in the dark? She murmured as soon as she got her voice back. He looked at her and blinked. The boy kept staring at the girl, trying to figure out for how long she was up. In the end he shrugged. Even if she was awake, he didn't said anything that could provide their identity to her. I think better in the darkness. He simply said while resting his arms on the table. Why are you awake? He wasn't looking at her anymore, and she felt better this way. Not that she disliked being looked at by him, it was just weird since the girl had just heard their private talk. Also, she couldn't really see him well with no light at all. Getting closer to the china cabinet and grabbing a glass, she looked over to his shadow silhouette. I woke up because I was thirst. Before closing the door of the little cabinet, she spoke again. Want some? The boy looked at her and nodded, only to remember that they were in the dark and she probably didn't saw his gesture. Yeah, sure. He heard Vital fulfilling their glasses with water, and sensed her sitting down by his side. He grabbed the water glass and drank all of it on one shot. He was stressed. It has been just one day since the keepers were on and his family was already suffering the side effects of it. All he wanted to do was to let them have a peaceful life. Without thinking, he crashed the glass on the table, breaking it and doing a little crack on the wood. He cursed under his breath. Vital, on the other hand, jumped with fright. She wasn't expecting that sudden noise. Shit. He simply said. Don't move, I'll get it clean. He then turned the lights on, grabbed a dishcloth and started to clean up. Vital looked at the table and blinked when she saw the crack on it. It was him who did this. Or it was always there. She couldn't remember at all, but the blood on his hand makes she grab his arms, stopping the cleaning. He looked at her with curiosity. What? Now she made a worried face. Your hand, it's bleeding. It was when he looked down to his own hand. Oh, it's true. He simply said as if it was nothing to be worried about. I can take care of it later, but now I need to finish to clean, and Vital cut him off by walking him to the sink. She opened the tap and put his hand under the water, his blood turning it into a red liquid. Take care of yourself first, the glass isn't important. He giggled. She sure doesn't know how his mother can be fearsome when it comes to house objects being broken by super strength. Do you have a first aid kit? She looked up to his face, glaring at his kind smile and onyx eyes. She blushed. No, we don't, was all he said. Don't worry, I'm okay. Really. He managed to get his hand back from hers, but his gaze never let go of her blue eyes. Suddenly something came to his track of thinking and he spoke before noticing. Say Vital. She raised one eyebrow at her friend. What? The boy gulped. Maybe he shouldn't ask her. Don't you dare to not ask your question. You started, now you finish. He sighed in defeat. It was going to be better if he thought more about it. All this alien stuff, do you really think all of them are bad? I mean, what if there are some of them that mean no harm, and even have children with humans? Her reaction wasn't what he was expecting. She put a finger on her mouth, thinking about what her friend just said. It took a few minutes for her answer to come. To tell you the truth, I have a bad feeling about all this stuff. She turned her back to the sink and crossed her arms. I do believe there are some of them that are good and mean no harm. On top of that, I'd not be surprised if there are half aliens out there. She looked at him with a kind smile. At first I did thought they were all bad, until the golden fighter was found out to be one as well. His eyes showed surprise now, so all he did as the superhero thing was worth it after all. He sincerely cared about every person he saved. I could feel it. I'm sad because now everyone thinks he is a bad person, alien, whatever he is. A giggle came to her ears and she looked angry at him. If you were going to laugh, he then hugged her. Finally, someone that thinks just like me. He then let go of her. Let's sleep. We have a full day to enjoy tomorrow. Gohan was somehow happier than ever now. There was at least someone who doesn't think all aliens are bad. He even forgot about the broken glass, cracked table and wounded hand, while Vital was frozen in her spot. Gohan. The mad yell that echoed inside the sun's house on the next morning woke up every human and half aliens that were snoring in a flash. The one the voice called opened his eyes fast at the same time he sat on his bed. Looking at his bedroom, he saw a sharpener with messy hair on Goten's bed, while his own brother looked scared right next to him. As they shared the bed, for Sharpener had a place to sleep, the blonde was with a huge frown, as if he was wondering what happened. What did you do? Goten asked with worry in his eyes. His brother gulped. He just remembered the crack on the table. Bro, he started, but another yell came from downstairs, making him shiver. Get down here right now. Or else I'll go there and bring you by the ear. Cursing under his breath, the teen got out of his bed. What a wonderful morning. Running down, he reached the kitchen really fast and got afraid of the sight of his mother holding the frying pan with burning eyes. Dare to explain this? She pointed at the table, where the pieces of glass were, together with the crack. Scratching the back of his head, he looked away. You see, I was thirsty and stressed. I kinda used too much strength to put the glass down. He looked at his mother uneasy. He was telling the truth, but it didn't mean that she wouldn't hit him. Chi-Chi was looking at him with narrowed eyes, but before she could tell something, he decided to continue. I was going to clean it up, but I got cut, so I stopped. That just made her raises an eyebrow. How the hell the glass hurt you? The boy shrugged. He didn't know either, since it shouldn't had cut his skin. All he could think that it was because Vital was near him. Maybe he unconsciously let himself unprotected by his ki. How serious was it? He then showed his hand. Nothing serious, it's healed already. The answer he got was a hit on the head with the frying pan. Good. Now go change clothes, they are staring at you. Gohan titled his head to the side, turning to his back right after. In the middle of the room were Arasa, Sharpener and Vital, the three staring at him, who just noticed that he was shirtless. The trio's eyes traveled around his torso, noticing not just his muscles. He never was shirtless in front of them until now. He just used a shirt when swimming, and a lot of scars. The one that caught more their attention was the one that started on his left shoulder, going down until the middle of his upper arm. Noticing how they were looking at him, Gohan rushed up to his room cursing under his breath as how he didn't even remember to put a shirt on, his face as red as a tomato. Goten glared at his brother after he entered their room. The oldest son boy was still all red and confused. Did something happen, big bro? Gohan looked at his brother and sighed. Let's say I may not be the weak nerd anymore. Goten giggled at that while floating to his brother's side. So they now know you're super strong. Gohan smirked and got his brother on his arms. The kid was his fun time. That was not what I just told you. With his right hand he patted his brother's head. They just saw I'm not weak, squirt. Let's let the super part out of it, okay? He smiled at his little brother's giggle and nod. The oldest then started to look at his closet, trying to find a shirt that wouldn't reveal a lot of muscle or hide all of it. In the end he got a sleeveless one. He wasn't pleased that the scar made by Cell was all showing up, but now he really didn't had to hide it anymore. The smell of breakfast started to fulfill the bedroom. Both brothers' stomach growled, and saliva dropped out of their mouths as they dreamed about the food. Chi-Chi put some pancakes on their plates with a smile on her face. The teenagers bite their lips in excitement. The food that Chi-Chi did was the best. As soon as they started to eat, the two brothers appeared from nowhere, digging themselves on the food reserved for them. The trio looked at the oldest son of the house, still impressed about his muscles, sensing the glares Gohan sighed. You know, he swallowed the food on his mouth when he got a murderous glare from his mother. You guys can ask me if you want to know something. Don't need to stare at me. Now he smiled at his friends. Oh, sorry for staring at you, it's just. Sharpener gestured with his hands without a defined meaning. We know you for 6 months and we never knew you had those muscles. Gohan looked unsure at them. He wasn't really hiding it, but he also wasn't trying to show either. Do you work out? Arasa asked while biting one of her pancakes. For everyone's surprise, she wasn't freaking out about their friend, she was pretty calm. Gohan pondered his answer. Should he say he trains every day, or maybe lying a bit would be fine? I train once per week. In the end he added one more lie to his list, but his answer got Vital's attention. By training, do you mean martial arts? That got Chi-Chi's attention and Gohan could see his mother tensing up. Her back were still being showed to the teenagers as she was doing the dishes. Goten stopped eating and now was looking at Vital with an unsure look. The girl was taken aback. Did she ask something wrong? Yes and no. Gohan answered, still looking at his mother. I train to keep in touch with my father, I guess. His glare then went to his friend once again, a sad smile on his face. He taught me some movements, but since he passed away I just copy him. He then started to eat again, and no one dared to ask anything more as the tension on the room just rose. The night was slowly coming. The sun's light fading on the horizon illuminated the clearing and the 5 people that were camping. The fire pit creaked as the fire got higher. A sound of snoring could be heard, and the kid that was responsible for that was sleeping deeply at Arasa's arms. Both were tired for the whole day of playing. Gohan smiled at his brother and lays down on the grass, crossing his arms under his head, followed by Vital at his left side. Sharpener, as well as Goten and Arasa, was sleeping near the fire. You know, I really miss the moon, the brunette said, making Gohan look at her. I barely saw it back then, but I remember that no one found out why it exploded. The boy snorted. Sure, he could tell her what happened to the moon, but it wasn't like he missed it. He didn't want to turn into a giant ape again, never again to be precise. Well, maybe it was some alien who did that for, I don't know, preventing another alien to turn into a giant ape. Seeing the girl wide her eyes at the theory, he giggled. I'm kidding. Well, he wasn't. But it makes sense. I mean, if no one ever found out what happened, it just could had been made by an alien. He put his left hand on his mouth, holding his laugh. He told her the truth, but never thought that she was going to believe in him. Vital blinked at his action, and noticed once more the scar on his arm. With a frown she moved her hand, her fingers caressing his damaged skin. The action made him stop his thoughts and look at her. She was wondering how he got that. Vital. The girl stopped her hand, and looked at him. How did you get this? And the others, as she looked at the grass below her, Gohan glared at her eyes, looking away when Vital looked up at his. The male teen sat up and put his right hand on his scar. Maybe that's why he always hid that, the memory was too painful. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. She also sat up now, sad that her question made him feel like that. No, it's okay. He finally said, but didn't look at her yet. It's just that I wasn't expecting it. He slightly turned his face to look at her. The small ones, we can say that was due a difficult, really difficult childhood. A sad smile came to his face as he glared at his left arm. And this scar reminds me from my mistake, that's why I don't like to think about it. Vital blinked confused. I got this right after my father died protecting me. Or rather, the earth. The girl couldn't hold herself and hugged him from behind, surprising him. I'm sorry. You don't need to talk more. He smiled, gladly that he could avoid this topic. The rest of the weekend went in a flash, for the city teens. For the Sun family it was unusually hard. Many things happened and a bit of their secrets were revealed, what made them anxious. What the three friends would do if they found out about Goku. Even though the family had pics of him, they never told his name and what he did, until this last time. Now the kids know he used to do martial arts, but not if he was good on it. Gohan sighed, his eyes closed while on his bed. It was already Monday and he didn't really want it to go to school. He'd still use long shirts to hide his scars and muscles, but now he was sure his friends would try to make him enter some club. With another sigh he got up, got his watch after a long time looking at it, did his usual morning routine and headed to school on Nimbus. As he flew in his way the teen stopped in midair for a few seconds, looking at Capsule Corp. Direction. He could swear he sensed Vegeta's ki higher than the later days, but as it was just a couple of seconds he shrugged, the full-blood alien should be having a fight with Bulma and he smirked at that. Once near the city he used his jet to get to school, landing a few minutes later. Sharpener was already there and went running to him. Hey Brains, Sharpener said putting one of his arms around Gohan's shoulders. I know I already said that but, thanks for the weekend. The half-alien smirked. The blonde male was the one who loved his house the most. It's okay Sharp, you can go whenever you want to. He now put his arm around the blonde and both started to walk to the gates. Gohan noticed that the keepers on the city were now a small amount, and he wondered what the cause was. He frowned while sensing Vegeta's ki raise a bit again, just to fade once more. What are they up to? The teen was about to reach his phone on his pocket when a female voice called both from behind. The duo looked back at the same time, seeing Arasa and Vital walking to them. Hey guys. Arasa cheered up and the two boys smiled. Hey Arasa. It was when Gohan's phone rang, and after he let go of Sharpener's shoulder he frowned seeing it was Bulma who was calling him. Is something wrong? Hearing a sigh on the other side he understood that it could be better, but wasn't all that bad, yet. Can you come here and spar with Vegeta? He's driving me crazy. Gohan giggled, but that seemed to make the woman mad. Yes, laugh, and then when he blew up everything here and gets caught I wanna see who will laugh. He blinked. Whoa, calm down. It's that bad. I mean, he can't be seriously thinking in doing that. Quote. An angry sound of the other side made him sweat drop. You're right, it's Vegeta after all. His friends were looking at him with curiosity, wondering to whom he was speaking and why he seemed to get more serious as the talk went on, but they waited patiently until their friend hung up and looked at them. I have to go guys, it seems I can't attend school today. The trio now blinked. Gohan, as well known as Nerd Boy, was going to skip class. What? Chi-Chi will get mad at you. At an unconscious movement, he scratched the back of his head at the words Vital just told him. Yes, his mother would be mad at him, but in this particular case he was pretty sure she'd understand him. Maybe, but it's kinda an emergency, so I think she'll understand. With a sheepishly grin, he started to walk to the gate, waving his hands to his friends. Sorry guys. See you tomorrow. Throwing his capsule away, his jet came to sight and he was fast to fly away with it. Letting it go to fly at his usual way once he reached the limits of the city. Grabbing his phone from his pocket, he called home. For his surprise, the one who took it was Gohan. Gohan smiled at that. His brother was usually not good with messages, so he could blame him later if Chi-Chi scolded him. Of course he was sorry for that, so he told his brother about Vegeta and his class. It wasn't long after that he landed on Capsule Corp's ground that he heard Bulma's discussion with Vegeta, the yells getting higher at every second, and the key that the prince let go was starting to make the boy worried. It wasn't a small amount at all, and he got a bit of a chills when he saw one keeper coming at their way. He slowly made his way to the duo, the voices only getting higher as he approached, and the sight of the three persons in front of the gravity room wasn't one of a happy family at all. Not that Vegeta had a happy face once in a while. Trunks was in the middle of his parents, eyebrows connected in a worried glimpse, trying to make them stop the yelling at each other, while Bulma was sticking her index finger into Vegeta's chest in an angry way. Gohan could see a vein pop up on the prince's forehead. I already told you to stop. They can sense ki, or strange energy sources, or else they'd not had followed Gohan in his disguise. The teenager blinked at that. He didn't notice that until now. Bulma was really something. Like, I care. I can't stop my training any longer. Step out of my way, woman. Vegeta was sounding as bad as the first time Gohan saw him when he was 5 years old, and it gave him a bad feeling. It was when Trunks noticed him and with a pleaded look in his face asked with a mute glare for his help. The black-haired teen nodded but wasn't sure what to do. He didn't want it to get things worse. I'll let you train if you use a low amount of ki, but you keep refusing. I think I just told you that. That was Gohan's clue. He decided to talk. Vegeta, I can have a spar with you now if you want. But I really think Bulma has a. He was cut off but a death glare that said, shut the hell up and mind your own business, to him. Gohan gulped. That sure wasn't going to end well. I don't need you, cockabrat. Go home or school, whatever you do at this time of the day. The teen frowned mad. He could just give the prince a lesson, but he knew Bulma would get mad at him too if he did it. Dad, can't you not train today? I mean, one day more wouldn't make a difference, right? Trunks's voice came out as a whisper, but he regretted speaking right after. Being the proud being Vegeta was, and as stubborn as he could once he was mad and made up his mind, he slapped his son's face in a fast move. Gohan's mouth opened in shock, while Bulma's hand hit the prince's face as fast as his hands left Trunks's face. That definitely isn't going to end well. How do you dare to slap your own son's face? He's only worried about you. Bulma yelled. From that point the only things Gohan could remember were Trunks's eyes watering up, Vegeta turning into Super Saiyan, and then, darkness. Sharpener yawned while stretching up his arms. Literature wasn't his favorite class, as if one class was ever his favorite aside from physical education. Vital looked at him and smiled. She was as bored as her friend, and was praying for her watch to beep and the police to need her. With a look to her other blonde female friend, she giggled. Arasa was sleeping peacefully using her book as a cover-up. Hey, she heard Sharpener murmur to her. I have a bad feeling about brains. Vital raised one eyebrow at that and turned to her friend. Why? The boy shrugged. I don't know, but the way he answered his phone, and the way he just walked away, something's off. Vital crossed her arms and could just nod at him. He had a point. She was about to continue their talk when a sound could be heard far away. Even Arasa woke up. The teacher stopped his lesson and walked to the windows, trying to find the source of it, but all he could see was smoke far away. The students followed him right away, only seeing the same thing he did: smoke. Walking away from the windows, the teacher went to his desk and opened its drawer, getting a remote controller. "Let's see if we have something on the news. Get back to your seats." The students raced to their seats as fast as he finished his sentence. "If they only had this enthusiasm over my class." With a sweat drop, he turned on the TV, searching for any channel that was spreading news. What he found on the second try: "We have news about the explosion that just occurred in West City. Our representative at the city will tell us more about it. Mr. Call, please proceed." The screen changed, and now Mr. Call was with a serious face, in front of a world-known gate, Capsule Corporation. On the background, a continuous noise could be heard. "Thank you, Charlie. As you can see, we are right in front of Capsule Corporation yards. A huge explosion happened a few minutes ago, and by the presence of the keepers, that keep arriving, we can say it was due an alien attack. We have a helicopter flying above right now, so please keep up with the images." The screen changed again. Now there was half of a building destroyed inside the CC grounds, wreckage all over the grass, and a fight happening between a black-haired short man and the keepers. Vital's eyes narrowed as she noticed a kid, with lavender hair with a bit of blood on his clothes, digging up a lot of pieces of concrete, some even bigger than himself, in a hurry. She noticed the Briefs couple getting closer to the boy. The worry in their features only got worse as the little boy took another piece of wreckage, showing up a blue-haired woman covered in blood. At that point, Call spoke again. "Oh my God. Is that Bulma Briefs? Call an ambulance right now." It seems he didn't notice his mic was still on, as he kept talking to his coworkers with worry. The scene didn't change, but Vital, Arasa and Sharpener widened their eyes as they saw a pile of concrete being lifted, and under it a bloody Gohan came out. Gohan opened his eyes slowly, trying to understand and remember what happened. He could only hear a huge noise above him. It was stuffy, but he knew it was from a battle. After all, he had years in experience to know that, but couldn't see a thing. His head was aching on the right side, and he knew he was bleeding because his forehead was warm. With a deep breath, the boy started to remember what happened. Vegeta got mad at Bulma's slap on his face and turned Super Saiyan in a flash. The power of his ki blew up the building. He didn't know how much of it, and then it hit him. Bulma was right in front of Vegeta when that happened. With a hurry, he put his hands on a big gap between two big pieces that were upon him and lifted it. For him it was a light weight, but he had at least 3 floors of the building on top of him. When the sunlight came once more to his sight, he threw the pile by his side, getting up immediately. With his right hand, Gohan cleaned the blood on his right side, being now able to see with that eye again. Searching for Bulma and Trunks, he looked around, finding them pretty fast. "How's Bulma?" he asked while running to the Briefs family, and once he reached them, his heart sank. Her head was all covered in blood, her arms were full of wounds, and she had at least one leg broken. On top of that, she wasn't conscious. Gohan felt his blood pressure rise. How could Vegeta be so stupid? A metal noise was heard behind them, followed by an explosion. Turning to the source of the sound, he saw the prince landing. The Saiyan looked fast at his wife and then turned his back to his family. "Aren't you ashamed?" Gohan asked, turning to the man, which was now the same height as him because he was on top of a lot of wreckage. Vegeta turned to him, an undefined emotion on his face. "Ashamed of what? At least I trained a little with these pieces of shit of metal." Gohan gritted his teeth. The man was testing his patience. Walking to the short man with his fists clenched by his side, he contained his anger, at least until he grabbed Vegeta by his collar. "Look at her. Couldn't you at least protect your wife?" Gohan's eyes shined teal. He could say that he was about to screw everything up, but he didn't care. He had the need to teach the prince a lesson, but even so, he heard Trunks yelling at him, begging him to not do a thing because of something that he didn't understood. Vegeta smirked. She's still alive, isn't she? That made the trick. In a second, Gohan's free fist met Vegeta's chin and the man was sent flying meters away. The teenager was holding up his transformation as much as he could, but his eyes were already in the familiar teal of the Super Saiyan. The classroom could only stared at the TV in awe as Gohan kept fighting with the short man, who was at the same time destroying some keepers. The teen seemed to have some problems inside his mind. Vital's attention was totally on her friend, who constantly shook his head, as if trying to focus on the fight. She had experience in something similar. Once she started to fight crime, she had her own fears to outcome, and since their talk at Gohan's house, she was sure he didn't had much experience in battles, but he was doing very well for someone who casually trained. Too good to be precise. Narrowing her eyes at the broadcast, she made a decision. She was going there to help him. She didn't want to have a dead friend after all. Getting up, she caught everyone's attention, but it was Arasa who said out loud the thoughts of everyone. "Where are you going?" Vital, who was already near the door, sighed. "I'm going to help him. Where else?" With a hand on the doorknob, she looked at her two friends. "You two don't want to come. I mean, you want to help too, no?" A giant grin came to Sharpener's face as he got up, grabbed Arasa's arm, and rushed to Vital. "Let's go, babe." This time Vital didn't hit him on the head after he called her babe. She just smiled and rushed out of the door, followed by her friends. They rushed to the rooftop, where the brunette got her little metal box for capsules. With a sigh, she got one of them and threw away. With a poof, a red jet appeared instead of jet usual yellow, and at its side the words, Satan 2 inches could be seen. "I never drove this one. It's a new model, the motor is stronger." She made a pause. "I hope I can drive it." At that, her friends looked at her with doubts. "Why you hope?" With a firmly nod, she gestured to them to get inside. Trunks's eyes changed to Bulma and the fight constantly. He didn't know what to do. He asked Gohan to don't start the fight once he saw the helicopter with a camera on it, but it was no use. The teen seemed to be deaf due to the anger. The boy never saw Gohan like that. Looking at his grandparents, his heart sank. He never saw such sadness and worries inside their eyes. With a frown, he put his eyes on the duo again. Gohan avoided a punch that aimed his chin while a kick hit Vegeta's chest, sending him a few centimeters behind. The teen cursed under his breath as he felt the power rise inside. It was hard to put his Saiyan instinct under control, much more than he had previously thought. He had blood all over his body, a cut on his lower lip due to the punches that the prince hit him that caused a lot of small cuts on his face as well. Not that his body didn't had them too, he didn't had time to think about the one on his forehead due to the wreckage earlier either. Punches and kicks, at a slow pace for them, were traded with violence, both sides coming out with scratches that opened up for the blood come out. At some point Gohan shut his eyes closed as he felt the angry rays once again, and while he was trying to control it, he sensed an air pressure coming from his opponent, and he avoided a really fast ki blast. "Are you serious?" Shooting his eyes open, he looked mad at Vegeta, right before hearing something explode behind him, what he found out to be a keeper, or what was left of it, destroyed on the ground. "I knew you would avoid it. Don't go crying like a child, okay?" Vegeta crossed his arms on his chest, and looked fast at where Bulma was. "I know that I screwed up, you know. Go take care of her. I can't get closer without causing more problems." For Gohan's surprise, the prince was showing a painful expression, a rare thing for him. The teen felt the rage he was feeling decrease slowly and he relaxed, but he also knew that if he just stopped fighting it would be strange and would get a lot of attention. Sighing, he looked with resolve to the short man before speaking. "Hit me," he told at the prince, who raised an eyebrow. "Just do it. I need at least to have a reason to stop fighting, right? So, hit me." He made sure the last two words came out so hard that the man understood what happened as fast as the words came out of his mouth, and a smirk appeared on his face. "Like I would let this chance to hit him freely get away." The duo went once again to their fighting instances and the fight started once more, this time much as an action scene than actually a fight. Vegeta narrowed his eyes at the teen, making clear that he was about to hit him as he asked, and Gohan nodded discreetly. Just to be distracted by the sound of a feminine voice calling for him. Gohan. His head turned to the source of the sound, his eyes widening as he saw a concerned Vital ran to his way, followed by two pale blondes. Watch out! She yelled, and he turned just in time to see Vegeta's punch hit his ribs with full force. The boy grunted at the pain and sound of his now broken ribs, and Vegeta let out a muffled sound that could be translated as he sensed that Gohan didn't really protected himself due to the distraction, what also resulted on the teen going meters away, rolling on the ground before he finally stopped far away, dust getting up at the action. Vegeta had to control himself to not go after the boy, and instead turn to the girl that made him distracted. So, how do you want to deal with your guilty now? He crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking at her with a dead expression. Vital froze on her spot. She felt her blood drain from her face as his words made their way to her mind. She made a huge mistake by distracting Gohan in the middle of the fight. How could I do something like that? And he isn't even used to fight. Vegeta smirked at the human girl. He could sense her fear, but what got him impressed was that she recovered really fast and got into a fighting instance. I'll have to face you now. The way a serious look took place over her worried features made Vegeta smile. She had an awesome fighting spirit. He would took a fighting stance too if a sudden white blur didn't landed between the two. The prince raised an eyebrow at the person in front of him, noticing that the keepers stopped to attack him and stood in a circle above the CC grounds. Vital's eyes widened as she saw the golden dragon on the back of the white overcoat, making she recognize the person in front of her fast. What are you doing here, Golden Fighter? She could hear a sigh coming from him, the sound muffled due to the visor he always wore, before an answer came out. But it wasn't for her. The Golden Fighter knelt in one knee and bowed in respect to the man in front of him, who showed a surprised look on his face. Forgive me, my prince, for my late arrival. Gohan was reluctantly saying those words, but in the short time he had to think, he couldn't find another way out. He looked up at Vegeta just to see an amusement stare at himself. His sweat dropped. Please let me help you get out of here in safety. Vegeta couldn't hold back his laugh anymore and he let it out really fast and loud. Vital, on the other hand, was stunned. Her partner in crime fighting was bowing to an evil alien who just blew up half of one of the CC buildings. Oh my, sorry, I couldn't hold it back, it brat. Vegeta got back to his old cold self and looked at Gohan with the amusement still there. Just shut up, the Golden Fighter mumbled to him, but Vital and the prince seemed not to hear that. He got up slowly, trying his best not to bow with pain due to his broken ribs. Vegeta narrowed his eyes at the boy. The small cuts that he had earlier were starting to show on his white suit, coloring it with the red of his blood. He then looked again to the girl behind the Golden Fighter. Her incredulous stare at his back glued on her face was priceless, and her will to fight faded away. Vegeta took a deep breath. I think I'm really growing soft. I don't need your help. I'll get going now. You should go and hide yourself. The prince then rose into the air, startling Gohan, who started to go after him but was stopped when arms got around his own left one. A quick look and he saw the brunette looking at him with a confused look, that type of look that a person has when not knowing what to do. Let me go, he said gruffly. The tone was hard, but he had to use it. He had to help Vegeta or else things would turn out worse than it already was. Slowly he put his gloved hands on her arms, putting them away from his and taking a little distance from her. You don't know what is going to happen if he goes alone. Thinking it was over, he looked up in search of Vegeta's key, and found it still nearby. Odd. He should be far away now. Looking around, he noticed that the keepers were stopped in midair, doing nothing, and that gave him a bad feeling and his stomach ached. Something was not right. What the hell? What happened to you? Vital was now in front of him and glaring at his suit that was now covered in blood in a lot of spots. He turned his attention to her again and sighed. Vital was really stubborn when she wanted to and he had no time to deal with it this time. It's not of your concern. Go to your friends. With a fast move he flew up, looking back at the keepers that still stood in the same place. Looking forward after sensing Vegeta's key spike up he was got in surprise. The prince was surrounded for what seemed an army of unfinished androids number 17 and number 18. They still had metal parts showing, the fake skin only on their faces. He let his key flare around him in an attempt to fly faster, but a single glare that came from Vegeta made him stop midair. It was clear that the prince didn't want his help, instead he could swear his eyes said to him to run away. Gohan looked in horror as he saw Vegeta being outnumbered, his ki being drained from his body by the hands of one number 17 look-alike, and soon enough he felt unconscious. Panic took over him. He had to do something. How he would look at Trunks and Bulma again if he just let them get away with Vegeta. A metallic sound made its way to his ears. Turning around he saw the keepers had starting to move again, this time towards him at the same time that a couple of the new androids started to fly away with the unconscious prince. The rest of them looked at his direction. He had no choice but to fly away into the city, turn back to his normal self and hid. Single quote. Gohan had to run in a fast speed to get back at Capsule Corp. His ribs aching at the unwanted movement, he went back to the place he landed after the hit he got from Vegeta, and lay there looking at the sky with a pained expression. What should I do now? I had the duty to help him. He is indeed the prince of my blood breed, at least half of it, a friend, Bulma's husband and Trunks' father. I let my anger get the best of me again. He put a hand on his eyes, covering them, trying to hide the shame and pain he was feeling, but it didn't help the tears that came out. What should he do now? His three new friends were there, and saw him getting the full hit. He couldn't just go and eat a senzu to heal his wounds or ask Den to do it. He cleaned the tears on his face and swallowed the lump on his throat. He had no time to think about it right now, instead he had to find a way to get out of this mess. For his surprise, the person who went to him first was no other than Kuririn, who looked sadly at the boy who almost let his feelings show up as tears again. The short monk sat at his side on the ground, eyes looking at the distance. He knew Gohan too well to know what he was thinking right now, but he wouldn't dare to talk about it, not in that moment. I got here at the same time you flew after him. Kuririn said, still looking away. As the silence stood, he cleared his throat before talking once more. Bulma is already on her way to the hospital. Those three teenagers are your friends. He paused to finally look again at the teen who nodded weakly at him in a positive way, and then he looked away again. Okay, your friends were in panic, trying to find you and thinking you were dead. I told them I would search for you. Trunks wanted to come too, but I told him he should stay with his grandparents since they were in not a good state of mind. With the corner of his eyes he saw Gohan bit his lower lip and fight the tears that were almost coming out again. I called Yamcha and asked him to go get 2 senzu from Karen, but I'm not sure if you two should take it since, well, I think the whole world saw what happened today. He heard a groan coming from the boy inside. They could find an excuse for Bulma's miraculous recovery, but his. Just because he is a friend of the family just didn't sounded right. I hate myself, were the only words he spoke, his eyes still looking up into the sky and the tears were now falling down. Kuririn looked away. He knew it was hard to Gohan to open up like this, at least for the Z fighters. In fact, he wasn't sure if he ever opened up to someone since Goku's death, and a specific day after that. He took a deep breath after a few moments, and put his left hand on the teen's shoulder. Take it easy, you can't blame yourself for something he brought to himself. The teen didn't answer, but instead he sat up slowly due to the ache of his ribs. The short monk looked at him with a bit of curiosity. What do you want to do now? I should go to the hospital. Let me think what to do on the way there. Kuririn nodded and helped his friend to get up, the duo walking slowly to what was left of the house building of CC. It didn't take long for the tall teen see his friends and look away from them. He didn't know how to act towards them, and he also didn't want to talk to Vital because of his hard tone a few minutes ago. Kuririn sighed. Hey guys, we need to take him to the hospital. I don't know how he got away with just scratches and maybe broken ribs though. That made the short man earn a glare from Gohan, but he just shrugged. That could be luck at all. The paramedics rushed to him and made him sat at the ambulance for a fast checkup. His friends tried to get closer to him, and even he clearly avoiding them, they didn't stop their tries. Kuririn sighed at that, what the boy was thinking. They're his friends, not someone who barely knows him. Looking at the briefs, the short man walked to them. You guys going to see Bulma? Mrs. Briefs nodded in a sad motion. Yes, but you already took measures to help her, right? Kuririn nodded, knowing what he was saying, and decided to talk to them about how to make the miracle happen later. They had too much to deal with now. Trunks took a deep breath and walked to where Gohan was, catching everyone's attention. His steps were firm, his glare full of assurance of what he was going to do, and it remembered Vegeta's serious face. His walk stopped right in front of the older Demi-Saiyan. Thank you. Gohan's eyes slowly widened. He never saw the kid thank someone before. For everything you did. The kid now looked down at his feet, gulping a bit before talking again. Go visit mom, okay? I think she'll be happy if you go. I'd be happy. He then went forward and hugged the teen's legs, rushing fast after his grandparents. Gohan let out a heavy breath as he watched the little Demi-Saiyan hug his grandparents and disappear into a car that left the place as fast as it could. I'm sorry, Gohan, it was my fault you got that hit. I distracted you from the fight. The voice made him look at the brunette that was now in front of him, but he couldn't maintain his look at her, and his eyes went to the nurse that was trying to do his checkup. She had an annoyed face as everyone seemed to be interrupting her work. Vital felt a lump grow inside her throat. The guilty came at full force as he didn't answer her. Brains, you look like shit, but I'm glad you are alive. Even when Sharpener talked, Gohan didn't change his glare. Cutie, Arasa couldn't find what to say at all. She wasn't good in things like this. She usually just talked whatever she wanted to, not caring about the consequences, but this time the girl knew that it was better not say a thing. Kuririn, who was witnessing everything from afar, sighed heavily. He should teach Gohan how to behave in front of others when things like that happened. He approached the group of people with a weak smile. Okay guys, let's talk at the hospital, okay? I think Gohan needs care and a good rest for now. He looked at the nurse, who now wore a glare of, finally someone who let me do my job, at him. I can go with him inside, right? We should get going. She nodded and the trio entered the ambulance. Kuririn went to close the door but murmured a few words to the three humans teens outside. I'll talk to you all at the West City Central Hospital. The trio stood there looking at the ambulance leave the Capsule Corporation's grounds. The West City Stadium was in shock with the broadcast that interrupted the game. One particular person was in a state of panic as he saw his friends on the large screen, two fighting each other and one down in a blood stance. When Gohan was sent flying away by Vegeta's attack, he couldn't hold it anymore. Tossing his baseball bat on the grass ahead of him, he rushed to the coach area, grabbing his cap and putting it inside the blue bag. His actions caught the attention of his team and coach, who got worried as he saw the expression on the face of his player. Where are you going, Yamcha? The game isn't over yet. The large man went to his side and put a hand on his shoulder, just to receive a death glare in return. I don't care, coach. I have to go now. My friends need me. He fast got free from the grasp and put the bag over one of his shoulders. One of his teammates ran in front of him, arms wide open in an attempt to stop his friend. You can't just go. You are a player, not a martial artist. At that he got a sarcastic laugh of the former fighter. He never really hid his past from them, but he didn't tell everything either. He had no need for that at all. Get out of my way. I can. He stopped by the sound of his cell phone ringing. His hands went fast inside the bag and grabbed it, holding a breath as he saw Kuririn's name on the display. I'm on my way. The voice on the other side was stuffy due the wind, but he could still understand what he said. Don't. You saw how Bulma was. Go to Karen and get to Senzu. He made a pause before continuing. I don't think Vegeta will get away from this one, but maybe you should bring him one too. Yamcha sighed deeply and looked once more to the screen on the stadium when a few gasps from the crowd could be heard, just to see Gohan's alter ego in scene and cursed under his breath. Okay, I got it. You should run there. Things just got worse. Without any more words he dashed outside the stadium, taking advantage of his former skills to avoid his friend and coach, letting them searching for him. Once he made sure no one was looking, he flew off to the lookout. Vital threw her capsule a bit away from them, and after the smoke ceased the red jet could be seen again. She tried to walk to it, but Sharpener stopped her track, surprising her. Oh no, you will not, I repeat, not going to drive it again. Let me do it. He then took the lead and sat on the driver's seat. He then looked at his friends with a look that could be translated as, what are you waiting for? And that made Vital blink. She wasn't that bad driving the new jet, was she? Yeah, you are, Arasa said with a hand on her friend's shoulder for reassure her. The girl was scary when she understood Vital's question without even being able to speak it out loud. We thought we were going to die before we got here. She then used the same hand on her friend's shoulder and patted the girl. With a sigh, the duo went to their seat beside Sharpener. Now Vital, this is how you drive a jet as strong as this one. He turned the jet on and started to fly away. Kuririn looked over to his friend, who was lying down on the ambulance's stretcher. The boy was with his eyes closed, deep in thought, trying to deal with what had happened until now. The moment he regretted more was when Vegeta got caught. If he had powered up, he'd save him for sure. He was certain about that. But still he remained behind, obeying his prince's will. He had done it again. He turned a family apart once more, and that was killing him mentally. Kuririn's eyes didn't let Gohan at all in the meantime. The features the boy was showing, even unconsciously, were too familiar to him. It reminded him a few days after Cell's defeat when he went to talk to the boy at his house, something that now he didn't want to remember. Even so, he still fonded his voice. Don't blame yourself. He couldn't hold it back into his mind, but he didn't get an answer at all. It's not your fault. The bald man sighed in defeat as the Demi-Saiyan kept his silent stance. The boy was as hard as his father when he decided something. They stood like that until Gohan was set free to go to a private room right after the doctors find that he in fact had broken ribs, 5 to be precise. The doctors were really impressed with his endurance. He then just closed his eyes and slept once in his private room. Kuririn shocked his head in disbelief while walking outside the room. Getting his phone, he dialed Chi-Chi's number, fear trespassing his mind before he did press the call button. For long seconds the phone rang and the monk was certain that she'd not answer, but in due time she got it. Sun Residence. Her voice wasn't calm, but it wasn't at a mad tone either. Kuririn frowned at that. It certainly was odd for the woman. Hey Chi-Chi, it's me Kuririn. A long pause came before her answer. I'm not going to the hospital. The bald man blinked, but before he could say anything she continued. We talked before, me and Gohan, that if something did happen, I'd go straight to my father, and that's what I'm doing right now. We are almost finishing the packing, and I'm sure he'll understand after you tell him. She heard a sigh. I see. If it is what you guys wanted, it's okay, but. He paused. How should he say to her that her son was blaming himself again? Do not get it wrong, Kuririn. I am really worried and would go there as fast as he got hit by that by Vegeta. Knowing my son, he isn't seriously wounded, but please tell me, how is he? Kuririn couldn't help but smile a bit. It was better if she didn't know about his mental state after all, at least for now. Aside from a few broken ribs, he is fine. I got Yamcha to get some senzu so he and Bulma will be like new people in a few hours. He could feel her relief through the phone. I'll tell him that you are going along with his plan. Don't worry and send the Ox King my greetings. Thank you, Kuririn. Please take care yourself. The talk went fast to its end, and it wasn't long after that a nurse came to his way, the sound of her heels catching his attention. She got an annoyed face, like someone was getting on her nerves. Her blonde hair was up in a firmly ponytail, her red glasses on the perfectly spot on her face, and she stopped in front of the bald monk. Excuse me, sir. As you asked not to disturb your friend over there, she pointed to Gohan's room before continuing, the annoyed frown never letting go of her features. We couldn't call the room to ask if some people can come to visit him, so I came personally. She made sure to emphasize that last part. I told them they can't go in, but they are really annoying. Kuririn blinked at that. Or it was Yamcha or Gohan's friends, whom he said he talked to. Can I know the names? She sighed at his voice. Ask yourself. They are right behind me. And with that she turned her heels to the same way she came and walked away, letting behind 3 teenagers and a short bald man. Vital was the first one to look back at the man in front of her. His features were sad and yet calm. She frowned slightly at that. Or he was fine with the fact that his friends were sent to the hospital, or they weren't in a so bad shape as everyone believed. Soon Kuririn's eyes widened, like he had realized something he forgot, and he turned to the nurse once more. Oh wait, he yelled and ran to her, stopping her mad walk. There is someone that you can let get in without warning. His name is Yamcha, and, at the simple mention of the name, her features got totally different. She wore a huge smile and even fixed her ponytail. You mean the baseball player, Yamcha the bandit? Her cheeks got red only thinking about him, and Kuririn's sweat dropped. How the hell Yamcha had this effect on women? Exactly. He can come to see him, and Bulma briefs. He didn't notice, but one of the 3 teenagers was as excited as the nurse, Sharpener. He couldn't believe that Gohan knew his idol. With a much more pleasant answer, the nurse nodded and almost ran her way back to the hospital reception. With a giggle, Kuririn turned back to the teenagers that stood behind him and smiled. Seems like Yamcha still has his charm over women. At that, Sharpener couldn't hold back and his fan side emerged. It's because he is so cool. And an awesome player too. His eyes shined with pride of the player, and Kuririn couldn't help but giggle. If only he knew how he used to be. Stop that, Sharpener. Now is not the time. For everyone's surprise, Arasa was the one who slapped the back of his head. Gohan is in a hospital for Kami's sake. Kuririn blinked and giggled at the teenagers. The blonde boy apologized in a murmur and looked with guilty to his friends. Vital shook her head in disbelief of her friend's behavior. Even in times like these, they were still acting with childishness. The silence grew between them after that. The short man was thinking in how to initiate his talk, but he couldn't find a way out. What should he tell them? What did Gohan tell them? He was in a difficult position. He could or help or destroy his friend's friendship. With a heavy sigh, that somehow got the tension to a lighten mode, he looked at them. What exactly do you all want to know? Crossing his arms and using the near wall to lean his back on, he kept changing his glare among them. Vital took a deep breath, trying to organize her mind with the many questions that pop up with his own question. She wanted to know what Gohan was hiding from them, but for some reason she couldn't ask the bald monk for that answer. When she finally put an order to her thinking, she lost her turn to Sharpener. How he got hit by that alien, flew away several meters away, and just got out with only a few broken ribs. Normally it'd be way more severe than this. Kuririn blinked. Now he was supposed to tell them about Ki. Because he too could get away with just that, if he was hit by that amount of force coming from Vegeta. Huh? How could I explain that? With his right hand on his chin to think he finally got a plausible answer. He has kinda a hard body, as do I. When he was a kid he was taught martial arts by his father and a friend. Our style, mine is the same as his father, has a hard way to be taught, so, due to that he can handle that much of force. He then scratched his head. He did let hid the fact that the boy is half alien. What he managed to find out their zero knowledge by the way they asked why he wasn't that badly hurt. But he also knew that this answer would open more questions. But he told us he don't train anymore. How could he still have this resistance? Vital asked with a big frown, and Kuririn's reaction made it only deeper. He said that, damn this kid. With a sigh he let go of the wall that was supporting him and went to Gohan's door. I think you all should ask him whatever you want to know. I can say more than he want, as I already did. Don't get me wrong, he said looking at their confused faces. He is not hiding things because he doesn't trust you all, but to protect you. That made Arasa's turn to speak. Protect us from what? He is a normal person from the country. Kuririn smiled sad at that. If only you knew what he had to go through since he was 4. Without saying anything more he opened the door, allowing them to see the room. It was simple, a television on the left side and right in front of it the bed, but once they looked at it they saw Gohan with an expression unknown to the 3 teenagers. Kuririn instantly went back in time, remembering when he went to the Sun residence after Cell's defeat. It was a sunny and hot day. The bald monk was flying to his friend's house to see Gohan, who for a few days was in a gloomy state due to his father's death. He soon found the kid's key far from the house, and went to him. When the bald monk had a sight of the Demi-Saiyan he frowned. He was sitting on the grass at the side of the lake, knees under his chin and had a big fish by his side. Landing near him, he noticed the look on the boy's eyes. It was clouded and without any sign of the glow it used to have. Hey Gohan, he said sighting by his free side, the boy never looking at him. Hi, was all he said after a few minutes, a clear tension in the air. Did something happen? Again several seconds passed by, this time he didn't get an answer. You shouldn't blame yourself kid. Goku's death wasn't your fault. Now Gohan put his head down, his knees on his forehead, hiding his face. My mom is pregnant. It took a few seconds for Kuririn realize what he had just heard, but Gohan wasn't done yet. He, or she, will grow up without a father because of me. I killed him. It is my fault. Kuririn would remember more of that day if it wasn't for one of the girls calling him out. As he was deep into his memory he couldn't understand what and who talked to him. With a sigh his hands came to his face, while trying to think what to do this time. The monk looked up to the teenagers that hold now a worried look at their friend and took a deep breath. Wait outside. It may take a while, it'll be even better if you guys come tomorrow. Not that he'll feel less guilty. Guilty. If someone here is feeling like that it is me. Vital said putting her hands on her face in an anger moment. He is here because of me. If I didn't distracted him in the middle of the fight, he wouldn't be so hurt. She finally finished with her head down, shoulders lightly up as if she was trying hard not to cry. Arasa embraced her friend with sadness and even Sharpener joined her. Kuririn looked over Gohan again, just to see his state get worse, why he had to be a psychologist for teenagers. Look. He'd not get hit if didn't want to okay. Don't blame yourself. Don't go there, not even once, or you'll be like him. He said touching Vital's back, his eyes never letting go of Gohan. Come back tomorrow, he'll be better. The 3 of them looked at him with a sad look, but in the end they nodded. Please take care of him. Sharpener said with a firm look. We'll come back tomorrow. As the trio walked away Kuririn sighed. He didn't even know if Gohan would be there tomorrow since he surely was going to eat a senzu and think what to do after. Turning once again to Gohan, he closed the door, walking slowly to the seat at the side of his bed. At first he didn't say anything. He just stood there looking at his friend, who now was biting his lower lip, fighting the tears once again. With a deep breath, Kuririn extended his hand and put it on the teenager's back, and almost at the same time the tears started to drop. When his voice came out after the mute sobs, it was deep and rough. "I did it again, didn't I, Kuririn?" With his hands he took the wet out of his face, his eyes darker than before. "Once more I was unable to help. And again I shattered a family." He still wasn't looking at Kuririn, but the bald monk didn't care. At least he was opening up. "No, you didn't." Gohan now looked at him with the corner of his eyes. Vegeta screwed up. And he knew it, didn't he? He is just like that. Act first, think after. He now patted the half-breed on his back, comforting him. "Even still I feel like I failed him. It may be my Saiyan blood, but it is killing me inside. More than." He paused, looking at his hands now. "More than with Dad." He had now a frown that could be understood as pain. "And also, I can't feel his ki." Kuririn, who was listening carefully to his friend, blinked. He didn't even think about that, but he had to acknowledge that he got really worried as he couldn't sense Vegeta's ki now that he had tried to. But it doesn't mean that he is dead. He can be unconscious. Even if he is unconscious, he can't come back. It gets back to the fact that I took away Trunks' father and Bulma's husband. He then looked at Kuririn, and the short man was relieved to notice that the darkness and sorrow were almost not there. He still blames himself, but he also knows how Vegeta temper is. "You've grown up, Gohan. The keepers took him away, but we'll find him. I have a feeling that soon enough the humanity will hate these things." At that the Demi-Saiyan raised an eyebrow. "Why you think so?" Getting his hand back, Kuririn crossed his arms and smirked. "When they started the research on the robots, they said it was to keep people in safety." Gohan nodded. But what happened today was different. Instead of helping the injured, they kept fighting the so-called bad alien, and ignored all the rest. That, my friend, is something people will talk about. Now Gohan smirked for a moment. "I just hope they don't make us wait for too long." Both giggled and the tension on the air vanished. It was as if the teenager never felt the way he did. With a slightly pain on his ribs, he sat more comfortably on his bed. "How is Bulma? Any news on her yet?" "Well, she was on emergency. I told Yamcha to go to her first because you can handle that much pain." Gohan laughed, just to feel the pain again. "Did you talk to my mother?" At that Kuririn sighed. "Yeah, she asked me to tell you that she is going to your grandpa." "I see." He made a pause while thinking, smiling right after. "I have a favor to ask you too." Seeing that the monk just raised an eyebrow, he kept talking. "Can you go and get my school disqualification? I can't go there anymore." The man walked as fast as he could, turning around corners to avoid the crowd that followed him. Sighing, he used his skills to hide himself in a hallway, letting out a relief breath as he saw all the people walk away. Looking at the little brown bag at his hands, he sighed. He had just asked where Bulma Briefs' room was, and right before he got the info someone recognized him. Not that he still having his uniform on didn't help. Is that Yamcha? After that it turned into hell. He was now lost and had no other choice as to search for her faint key. It certainly took more time than he thought, and he wished to get back into training his martial arts. Once in front of her room, he took a deep breath. After all, he didn't know what he'd see. The last time he had a view of her, she was bleeding, a lot. After a soft knock, he opened the door slowly, walking inside and closing it behind him. The sound of the equipments that monitored her was low, doing a beep every second that indicate her heartbeat. The briefs let out a relief breath as they saw Yamcha walking to them, a faint smile on their faces. Trunks was sleeping on the couch near Bulma. The stress that now left his body made he tired, and once his mother went to her room he blacked out. With a cordial nod he looked at his female friend. "How's her condition?" She has broken a leg and 3 ribs. Luckily her injury on the head wasn't so serious, she may wake up soon. They also said that she passed out from the pain. Yamcha was relieved. She wasn't in danger. That's really good, he said while getting closer to the couple. Take this one and tell her to eat it when she wakes up. I'll go see Gohan since she isn't in danger. Handing them a senzu, he dashed outside, hiding again to not have another crowd problem. It wasn't long when he reached the teenager's room, but the time he spent outside it was longer than he expected. He was unsure in how to approach his friend's son. By what Kuririn said to him on the phone, things weren't as good as he wished. And talking about that short man, where was he? He could sense that there was only one key inside the room, and it wasn't from his human friend, so he didn't know how to enter and talk about what happened. In the end he gave up on waiting for Kuririn, and with a deep breath walked inside the room. All of Gohan's attention went to him, together with a weak smile. How are you doing, bro? The baseball player said in his short walk to the seat at the side of his bed. And where did Kuririn go? Gohan giggled a little, doing a grimace with the light pain. I'm getting better, thanks. He then asked for his friend to sit down with a hand movement. He just went out. I asked him a favor and he went to do it. I told him it could wait until tomorrow, but in the end he went to do it right away. It was something like, never let for tomorrow what you can do today. His smile now was small. The older man nodded in understanding, laughing a bit at their friend's behavior. So, did you stop by Bulma? Yamcha did an affirmative movement with his head. Yeah, she is doing fine. She still didn't wake up, but it's like she's resting. They told me she has a broken leg and a few ribs. I gave them a senzu so everything will be fine. He then grabbed his brown bag and took a bean from inside it. Here is yours. I don't know what you'll say, and do, if you eat one though. I thought about it already. Yamcha then raised an eyebrow. He wasn't surprised, but at the same time he was curious on what way out the teenager had come to. Oh, mind telling me? Gohan smirked. Well, I'll just vanish from the face of Earth. I was thinking that maybe I could stay with someone they call Kami. Yamcha grinned, making Gohan giggle. Oh, so does Kami exist? Laughing, the boy answered. Oh, I don't know, maybe he is a teenager, green alien that guard this planet. Who knows?